Oh, hey, welcome back. Let me just pause my music. How's it going? Welcome back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, where today we are going to start making a change, just like that song Man in the Mirror talks about, right? He talks about realizing he needs to make a change, and so he makes a change. And I think that definitely all of us have moments in our life where, even though we don't want to, we get to that point where we go, man, this just isn't working anymore. I got to try something different. And lo and behold, there it becomes that change. And before you know it, you go from a caterpillar to a butterfly, right? Okay, so we have a lot to cover today. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to run through it smoothly and quickly. And begin making that change. Okay, so 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. I'm just going to come over here and put in, I think it's page 38. Could be, hello? 38, enter. Okay, almost. I was almost right. It's actually page 39, evidently. Yeah, my laptop is moving like at epically slow proportions today. So I don't know what's going on. I don't like it. I don't know if it's the weather or what, but it needs to change. Just like me. Okay, personal bank accounts. Starting with the man in the mirror. So yesterday we started with the man in the mirror. We're going to do, you're going to hear a quick story from Sean Covey. Then we're going to do a recap, and then we're going to jump into some elements of the worksheet that you're going to be working on throughout the duration of the text. All right. So what I give you today will be your daily assignment for the rest of the text. So for the rest of these 230 something pages, you're going to be working on this one worksheet and creating a project of your own. Okay. All right. Wonderful. So here we go. Before you'll ever win in the public arenas of life, you must first win the private battles within yourself. All change begins with the man in the mirror. That's you. I'll never forget how I learned this lesson. What's wrong with you? You're disappointing me. Where's the Sean I once knew in high school? Coach glared at me. Do you even want to be out there? I was shocked. Yes, of course. Oh, give me a break. You're just going through the motions, and your heart's not in it. You better get your act together or the younger quarterbacks will pass you up, and you'll be a bench warmer. It was my sophomore year at Brigham Young University, BYU, during preseason football camp. Several colleges recruited me straight out of high school, but I chose BYU because they had a tradition of producing All-American quarterbacks like Jim Mahoney and Steve Young, both of whom went on to the pros and led their teams to Super Bowl victories. Although I was the third string quarterback at the time, I planned on being the next All-American. When Coach told me that I was stinking up the field, it came as a cold, hard slap in the face. The thing that really bugged me, though, was that he was right. Even though I was spending hours practicing, I wasn't truly committed. I was holding back, and I knew it. I had a hard decision to make. I had to either quit football or triple my commitment. Over the next several weeks, I waged a war inside my head and came face to face with so many fears and doubts. Did I have what it took to be the starting quarterback? Could I handle the pressure? Was I big enough? It soon became clear to me that I was scared. Scared of competing, scared of being in the limelight, scared of trying, and perhaps failing. And all these fears were holding me back from giving it my all. There's a great quote by Arnold Bennett that describes what I finally decided to do about my dilemma. He wrote, "The real tragedy is the tragedy of the man who never in his life braces himself for his one supreme effort. He never stretches to his full capacity, never stands up to his full stature." Having never enjoyed tragedy, I decided to brace myself for one supreme effort. So I committed to give it my all. I decided to stop holding back and to start laying it all on the line. I didn't know if I would ever get a chance to be first string, but if I didn't, at least I was going to strike out swinging. No one heard me say, "I commit." There was no applause. It was simply a private battle that I fought and won inside my own mind over a period of several weeks. Once I committed myself, everything changed. I began taking chances and making big improvements on the field. My heart was in it now. I knew it, and the coaches saw that. As the season began and the games rolled by one, I sat on the bench. Although frustrated, I kept working hard and I kept moving. Mid-season featured the big game of the year. We were to play nationally ranked Air Force on ESPN in front of 60,000 fans. A week before the game, Coach called me into his office and told me that I would be the starting quarterback. Needless to say, that was the longest week of my life. Game day finally arrived. At kickoff, my mouth was so dry I could barely talk. But after a few minutes, I settled down and I led our team to victory. I was even named the ESPN Player of the Game. Afterwards, lots of people congratulated me on the victory and my performance. That felt good, but they didn't really understand. They didn't know the full story. They thought that victory had taken place on the field that day in the public eye. I knew it happened months before in the privacy of my own head, when I decided to face my fears, to stop holding back, and to brace myself for one supreme effort. Beating Air Force was a much easier challenge than overcoming myself. Private victories always come before public victories. As the saying goes, we have met the enemy, and he is us. Man, I love that story so much because it's so true. And, as young people, you have a lot of private victories to deal with and to win. I know that personally, when I was in high school, peer pressure was tough and it was a big thing. But you know what? I was headstrong then, just like I am now. And while I always didn't make the right decisions, I was, for the most part, able to generally make the right decisions. And if I didn't make the right decision, I was able to recognize it the first time and not make that decision again. And I'm fortunate because my dad was a football coach. So he instilled these things in me, these qualities in me, to know that I could make the right decision and I would be okay if other people didn't agree with it. And so that's what I would ideally like to do for you with this book, is to encourage you and to make you realize that here you are whole, but here we don't see it always. We need to see it in the mirror, in the man in the mirror, to realize it. And once you realize that all that stuff out there doesn't matter, life changes. It becomes completely different. Okay, so let's get back to our text. Forget addition tables. Let's do some algebra. Yay. Inside out. We crawl before we walk. We learn addition before algebra. We must fix ourselves before we can fix others. If you want to make a change in your life, the place to begin is with yourself, not with your parents, your teacher, or your girlfriend, or your boyfriend. All change begins with Y-O-U. Think about it. It's inside out, not outside in. I'm reminded of the writings of an Anglican bishop. When I was young and free, and my imagination had no limits, I dreamed of changing the world. As I grew older and wiser, I realized the world could not change, would not change, and I decided to shorten my sights somewhat and change only my country. But it too seemed immovable. As I entered my twilight years, in one last desperate attempt, I sought to change only my family, those closest to me, but alas, they would have none of it. And now, here I lie on my deathbed and realize, perhaps for the first time, that if only I'd changed myself first, then by example, I may have influenced my family with their encouragement and support. I may have bettered my country, and who knows, I may have changed the world. Dude, I'm just going to be straight up honest with you right now. Changing is the hardest thing to do. Recognizing that it's myself, me, here, this person sitting in this chair talking to you guys and girls, that it's me who has the issues. Literally, it's the hardest thing to do. So why? If you have so much trouble even being able to change yourself, if I have so much trouble even being able to change myself, what in the world gives me the audacity to think that I can go out there and change somebody else? It's got to start here, folks. It has to start here. And once it starts here, then it can be out there. But it's got to start here first. Okay? Now, this is what this book is all about. Changing from the inside out. Starting with the man or the woman in the mirror. This chapter, the personal bank account, and the ones that follow on habits 1, 2, and 3 deal with you and your character, or the private victory, so to speak. The next 4 chapters, the relationship bank account, and habits 4, 5, and 6 deal with relationships, or the public victory. And before diving into habit 1, let's take a look at how you can immediately begin to build your self-confidence and achieve that private victory. Okay, so your personal bank account. Little recap from yesterday. How you feel about yourself is like a bank account. let's call it your personal bank account, your PBA. So when you hear me say PBA, hopefully you pick up on this in the intro video yesterday. Your PBA is your personal bank account. It's an acronym, okay? You just like a checking or savings account at a bank, you can make deposits into it and take withdrawals from your PBA by the things you think, say, and do. So, for example, when I stick to a commitment I've made to myself, I feel in control. It's a deposit. Cha-ching! On the other hand, when I break a promise to myself, I feel disappointed and I make a withdrawal. So, let me ask you, how's your PBA? How much trust and confidence do you have in yourself? Are you bloated? Cha-ching! Or are you like totally bankrupt? Specifically below my elevate where you simply recap from yesterday. The possible sin of you wrestle with feelings of worthlessness and glory. You're overly concerned about what others think of you. You're arrogant to help hide your insecurities. My Nikes are better than yours. Look, they're solid white. You self-destruct by getting heavily into drugs, pornography, vandalism, or gangs. And you get jealous easily, especially when someone close to you succeeds. We got to start patting each other on the back, man. We can't keep kicking each other in the butt. What is that? Okay, now, possible symptoms of a healthy PA. You stand up for yourself and you resist peer pressure. You're not overly concerned about being popular. You see life as a generally positive experience. You trust yourself. You are goal-driven. And you are happy for the successes of others. So it's low. Don't get discouraged. It doesn't have to be permanent. Just start making small, humble deposits today. Deposits worth $1, $5, $10. You'll feel your confidence growing. Small deposits are a longer time way to healthy and rich PA. With the help of your team groups, I compiled a list of 6 key deposits that can help you build your PBA. And just like Newton's law of motion, with every deposit, there's an equal and opposite withdrawal. So, PBA deposits. Keep promises to yourself. Do small acts of kindness. Be gentle with yourself. Be honest. Renew yourself. And magnify your talent. PBA withdrawals are breaking personal promises, keeping to yourself, beating yourself up, lying, wearing yourself out, and burying your talents. So we're going to start with, obviously we're leaving those PBA withdrawals in the dust, right? But we know that you're going to have withdrawals. It's going to happen. And as you go through this process, your brain's going to go, whoa, wait a minute. You're trying to do something that I've never done before. I don't like this for a minute. Oh, I really like this for a minute. It's just temporary, right? Like literally one of my favorite things to say is that your brain loves the familiar. And it does not like the unfamiliar, right? So you are going to have to be strong and make the unfamiliar familiar in order to receive lasting change. You know how you do that? By making deposits, by your personal account, by holding yourself accountable for the way you act and the way you think on a daily basis. Now, keep promises. Have you ever had friends? They say they'll text you back and they don't. They promise to hang out on the weekend and they forget. After a while, you stop trusting them. Their commitments mean absolutely nothing. The same thing happens when you continually make and break self-promises, such as, I'm going to study right when I get home. When the next thing you know, you're on Facebook chatting with friends. You're on TikTok making 45 videos in 3 minutes. You're on Snapchat snapping that selfie. After a while of flaking out on yourself, you don't trust yourself anymore. We should treat the commitments we make to ourselves as seriously as those we make to the most important people in our lives. If you're feeling out of control in your life, focus on the single thing that you can control. You. Make a promise to yourself and keep it. Start with small $5 commitments that you know you can complete, like not drinking soda today. After you've built up some self-trust, you can then go for the more difficult $100 deposits, like deciding to break up with an abusive boyfriend or girlfriend, or making up your mind to overcome an addiction. Okay, so keep these promises to yourself. They're super important. Okay, do small acts of kindness. I remember reading a statement by a psychiatrist who said that if you're feeling depressed, the best thing to do is to do something for someone else. Why? Because it gets you focused outward, not inward. It's hard to be depressed while helping someone. Ironically, a byproduct of serving others is feeling wonderful yourself. I remember sitting in an airport one day waiting for my flight. I was excited because I've been upgraded to first class. And in first class, the flight attendants are nicer, the food is edible, and there's room to stretch your legs so they're not curled up like a pretzel. It's true, you. It's true. In fact, I had the best seat on the entire plane, seat 1A. Before boarding, I noticed a young lady who had several carry-on bags and was holding a crying baby. Having just finished reading a book on doing random acts of kindness, I heard my conscience speak to me. You scumbag, let her have your ticket. I fought these promptings for a while, but eventually I caved in. Excuse me, but you look like you could use this first class ticket more than me. I know how hard it can be flying with kids. Why don't you let me trade you tickets? Are you sure? Oh, yeah, I really don't mind. I'm just going to be working the whole time anyway. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you, she said as we swapped tickets. As we boarded the plane, I was surprised at how good it made me feel to watch her sit down in seat 1A. In fact, under the circumstances, sitting way back near the bathrooms didn't seem that bad at all. At one point during the flight, I was so curious to see how she was doing that I got up out of my seat, walked to the first class section, and peeked in through the curtain that separates first class from coach. There she was with her baby, both asleep in big and comfortable seat 1A. And I felt like $1,000,000. Cha-ching! I've got to keep doing the best thing. So, this sweet story shared by a teen named Tawny is another example of the joy of service. There's a girl in our neighborhood who lives in a duplex with her parents, and they don't have a lot of money. For the past 3 years, when I grew out of my clothes, me and my mom took them over to her. I'd say something like, I thought you might like these, or I'd like to see you wearing this. When she wore something I gave her, I'd think it was really cool. She would say, thank you so much for the new shirt. I'd reply, that color looks really good on you. I tried to be sensitive so that I didn't make her feel bad or give her the impression that I thought she was poor. It makes me feel good knowing that I'm helping her have a better life. All right. So there's so many ways that you can participate in service. And it's super simple, right? Go out of your way. Invite the kid who sits alone in class out with you and your friends. Ask them to sit with you. You know, maybe don't even ask them. Ask your teacher, hey, Miss Smith, can I sit by so-and-so today? Half of the time, your teacher's going to say yes. I know you've got those sticklers out there that have seating charts and don't really let you move or breathe. I get that. I used to be a student. I totally remember. But, I mean, if you tell them why, hey, I've realized that Sarah always sits by herself, even at lunch. She doesn't really seem to have many friends. And I just really like, I don't know, to be nice to her. Do you mind if I move my seat over there? Somebody who has, who gets it is going to be like, sure, I'll make a seating chart arrangement. And they're even going to do it in such a manner where it looks like it's their idea. So you might not get, chastised or looked at strange for it. So, like, for instance, if it was me and a student came up and said, hey, I've noticed that Rebecca doesn't really she doesn't ever sit with anybody. She doesn't talk much. And I've noticed some of the other kids actually make fun of her. Do you think it'd be possible for me to move my seat over by her? Would you mind if I did that? I don't typically have seating charts, but if I did, I would be the one to be like, okay, I'm making some changes to the seating chart today. Harold, you're going to be moving over by Rebecca. And that might be the only change I make. But that way, it protects you and her. And then y'all are able to go about your day, doing what you need to do. All you got to do is ask, man. What's the worst they can say? No. And that's when you can step out of your comfort zone and say, hey, why don't you come and hang out with me this weekend? I can't sit by you because Miss Smith won't let me move my seat, but I can invite you over. You want to come play, I don't know, what's something y'all play all the time? I like Call of Duty. So you want to come play Call of Duty with me this weekend? Let's hang out, maybe go get some ice cream or something. All right, so write an email or thank you note to someone who has made a difference in your life, like a friend, a teacher, or a coach. The next time you're at a toll booth, pay for the car behind you. Giving gives life not only to others, but also to yourself. And so we always do this pay it forward thing at Chick-fil-A. The car that's behind us, I pay for every single time. Never really told anybody that. I believe that service is something that you don't have to share. Like, I think there's two things. I think that if you do something good for somebody and you brag about it, then it's really coming from your ego. It's not coming from your heart. But if you do something good for somebody and you don't feel like you have to run out and tell the world that you did it, that's a heart thing. That's an inner thing. That's a, hey, I'm growing. This is growth. This is great thing. Okay? So keep that in mind next time if you buy somebody's lunch or something like that. If you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart and you don't feel like you need to go brag about it later, then that's a growth thing. That's for real. Okay, that's a deposit into your PBA, 100%. All right, let's continue. All right, I love these lines from the Man Nobody Knows by Bruce Barton, which illustrate the point so well. There are 2 seas in Palestine. One is fresh, and fish are in it. Splashes of green adorn its banks. Trees spread their branches over it and stretch out their roots to sip of its waters. The river Jordan to see furthermore from them, but laughs in the sunshine, and men build their houses near it, and birds their nests, and every kind of life is happier because it's there. The river Jordan was out into another. Here is fish, no fluttering leaf, no song of birds, no flutter. Travel to another route, large innocence. Air hangs heavy over the and neither man nor beast nor fowl drink. What is mighty difference in these neighbor seas? Not the river Jordan. It empties the same good water into both. Not the soil in which they lie. Not in a country moment. This is the difference. The sea valley receives, but does not keep. For every drop that flows into it, and flows out, the giving and receiving go on in equal measure. The other sea is shrewder, hoarding its income joy. It will not be tempted and be generous if every drop it keeps. The valley of the sea is sitting there. There's something in the world. There are 2 seas in Palestine. Man, I love that. Bruce Barton knows that, man. It's not expecting yourself to be perfect tomorrow morning. If you're late bloomer, as many of us are, be patient. Allow yourself enough to grow. I mean, one cool thing you do. My friend Chuck, who's extraordinary when it comes to laughing and never taking seriously. I've always been amazed by the attitude of things all things yourself up. The past is just past. Consider what went wrong and why. Learn and make amends if you do. Get it and move on. Throw that voodoo doll out the trash. The keys to happiness, says Renee Brown, is a bad memory. A ship at sea for many years picks up thousands of barnacles that attach themselves to the bottom of the ship and eventually weigh it down, becoming a threat to its safety. The easiest way to get rid of them is for the ship to harbor in a freshwater port, free of salt water. Here, the barnacles loosen on their own and fall off. The ship is then able to return to sea, relieved of its burden. Are you carrying around barnacles in the form of mistakes, regrets, and pain from the past? Perhaps you need to allow yourself to soak in fresh water for a while. Hit the refresh button. Letting go of a burden and giving yourself a second chance may just be the deposit that you need right now. Always be a first-rate vision of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Boom, Judy Garland. She was in The Wizard of Oz. Hello, Dorothy. As Bruno Mars sings, life's too short to have regrets. Only have one life to live, so you better make the best of it. This is true. YOLO. No, never mind. That was bad. I'm kidding. Okay, be honest. I Googled the word honest the other day, and these are a few of the related words I found. Upstanding, incorruptible, moral, principled, truth-loving, steadfast, true, real, right, good, straight shooting, genuine. Not a bad set of words to be associated with, don't you think? Honesty comes in many forms. First, there's self-honesty. When people look at you, do they see the genuine article, or do you appear through smoke and mirrors? I find that if I'm ever fake and try to be something I'm not, I feel unsure of myself and make a PBA withdrawal. I love how singer Judy Garland put it. Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Then there's honesty in our actions. If you've been dishonest in the past and think, we all have, try being honest and notice how whole it makes you feel. It's a relief not to hide who you are or to have to cover up your actions. Who cares what they think? Why should you? You're the only one that matters, ultimately. This goes for your internet persona too. Just because people can't see you directly doesn't mean you should lie. After all, you'll know you're not telling the truth. Remember, you can't do wrong and feel right. This story by Jeff is a good example of that. In my sophomore year, there were 3 kids in my geometry class who didn't do well in math. I was really good at it. I'd charge them $3 for each test that I helped them pass. The tests were multiple choice, so I'd write on a little tiny piece of paper all the right answers and hand them off. At first, I felt like I was making money, kind of a nice job. I wasn't thinking about how it could hurt all of us. After a while, I realized I shouldn't do that anymore because they weren't learning anything, and it would only get harder down the road. Cheating certainly wasn't helping me. It takes courage to be honest when people all around you seem to be getting away with cheating on tests, lying to their parents, and stealing from work. But remember, every act of honesty is a deposit into your PBA, and you will build strength. As the saying goes, my strength is as the strength of 10 because my heart is pure. Honesty is always the best policy, even when it may not be popular, and especially when it's painful. Because where there's pain, there's growth. All right, our next one. Renew yourself. Finger butt. I went too far. You've got to take time for yourself to renew and to relax. If you don't, you'll get burned out and lose the zest for life. It seems like half the planet has seen the movie Avatar, the highest grossing film of all time, or at least when this, I don't know if that's still true, but that's okay. Why was it so successful? Besides groundbreaking special effects and great filmmaking, I believe the story hits home because we all need to practice what it's preaching. The story takes place in the year of 2154 on Pandora, a forested moon in the Alpha Centauri star system, and revolves around the character of Jake Sully, a former Marine, now paralyzed, confined in a wheelchair, trapped and unfulfilled, being able to mentally live through his avatar. A 10-foot tall replica of the planet's blue natives, he at first feels alive because he can run and enjoy a working body, even if only in his mind. But it quickly becomes much more than that. Meeting the natives, Jake falls in love with Natiri, a female Navi native. The more time he spends with Natiri and her people, the more he comes to see the beauty and peace and power of their world. A world Jake's loud, natural, resource-thirsty humans have come to pillage and plunder. The message for us here is about rejuvenation, about unplugging, about taking time to listen to the natural world around us. It's about putting yourself in a self-imposed timeout for a while. Now, you don't have to become a 10-foot tall semi-human blue dude in order to find peace, but like Jake Sully, finding your own place to escape to, your own sanctuary of some kind, is essential. Go sit somewhere and ponder the clouds, find a tree stump, and listen to the wind or birds, or maybe even the beating of your own heart. If you don't have access to a big, cool, glowing tree of souls like Jake, maybe you can find a rooftop, a park bench, some piece of grass somewhere, just a place to be alone. Now, all this might sound a bit hokey, but trust me, humans today live in a constant storm of stuff, and we all need to take a deep breath and unplug occasionally just to renew our spirits. Dude, like I tell my students all the time, I meditate and I do yoga daily. And most of the time when I'm doing those things, I'm on my porch or I'm in my grass where that sunlight is just beaming down on me. Because retreating into nature and getting that little bit of solitude is all you need sometimes. All right, Theodore from Canada had his hideout. Excuse me. Whenever I get too stressed out, when I wasn't getting along with my parents, I'd just go into the basement. There, I had a hockey stick, a ball, and a bare concrete wall on which I could take out my frustration. I'd just shoot the ball for half an hour and go back upstairs refreshed. It did wonders for my hockey game, but it was even better for my family relationships. Arian told me about his refuge. Whenever he got too stressed, he would slip into his high school's large auditorium through a back door. All alone in the quiet, dark, and spacious auditorium, he could get away from all the hustle and bustle, have a good cry, and just relax. Allison found a garden all her own. My dad died in an industrial accident at work when I was little. I really don't know the details because I've always been afraid to ask my mother very many questions about it. Maybe it's because I've created this perfect picture of him in my mind that I don't want to change. To me, he's this perfect human being who would protect me even if he were here. He's with me all the time in my thoughts, and I imagine how he would act and help me if he was here. When I really need him, I go to the top of the slide at the local grade school playground. I have this silly feeling that if I can go to the highest place, I will be able to feel him. So I climb up to the top of the slide and just lie there. I talk to him in my thoughts, and I can feel him talking to my mind. I want him to touch me, but of course, know that he cannot. I go there every time something really is bothering me, and I just share my burdens with him. Besides finding a place of refuge, there are so many other ways to renew yourself and build your PBA. Exercise can do it, like going for a walk, running, dancing, kickboxing. Some teams have suggested watching old movies, talking to friends who crack you up, or recording music and making videos on your computer or, your TikTok. Others have found that writing in their journals helps them cope. I personally write in a journal. I love it, and I'm a writer, so it makes perfect sense for me. Habit 7, sharpen the saw, is all about taking time to renew your body, heart, mind, and soul. We'll talk more about that when it gets here, so hold your horses. All right, we're getting close, guys, to the end. Magnify your talents. Finding and then developing a talent, hobby, or passion can be one of the single greatest deposits you can make into your PBA. Why is it that when we think of talents, we think in terms of traditional, come back. High-profile talents, such as the athlete, dancer, or award-winning scholar. The truth is, talents come in a variety of packages. Don't think small. You may have a knack for reading, writing, speaking. Hello, hi, I'm here. That's me. All three of those things. You may have a gift for rhythm, being hilarious, remembering details, or being accepting of others. You may have organizational, musical, or leadership skills. It doesn't matter where your talent may lie, whether it's chess, drama, or skateboarding. When you do something you like doing and you have talent for it, it's exhilarating. It's a form of self-expression. And as this girl attests, it builds esteem. You might die laughing when I tell you that I have a real talent and love for weeds. And I'm not talking about the kinds you smoke, but weeds and flowers that grow everywhere. I realized that I always noticed them, while others just wanted to cut them down. So I started picking them and pressing them, and eventually making beautiful pictures and postcards and art objects with them. I've been able to cheer many a sad soul with one of these personalized cards. I'm often asked to do arrangements of flowers for others and to cheer and to share my knowledge of preserving pressed plants. It's given me so much joy and confidence, just knowing I have this special gift and appreciation for something most people ignore. But it even goes beyond that. It's taught me that if there's so much to simple weeds, how much more is there to almost everything else in life? It's made me look deeper. It makes me an explorer. My brother-in-law, Bryce, told me how developing a talent helped build his self-confidence and find a career in which he could make a difference. His story is set in the Teton Mountain range that stretches high above the plains of Idaho and Wyoming. The Grand Teton, the tallest of the, that might be Teton, I don't know, peaks, juts 13,706 feet above the sea level. As a young boy, Bryce had the picture-perfect baseball swing. Until his tragic accident. While playing with a BB gun one day, Bryce accidentally shot himself in the eye. Fearing that surgery might permanently impair his vision, the doctors left the BB in his eye. Months later, when Bryce returned to baseball, he began striking out each time at bat. He had lost his depth perception and much of his vision in one eye and could no longer judge the ball. Said Bryce, I was an all-star player the year before, and now I couldn't hit the ball. I was convinced that I would never be able to do anything again. It was a big blow to my confidence. Bryce's two older brothers were good at so many things, and he wondered what he could do now, given his new handicap. Since he lived near the Tetons, I keep doing that, he decided to give climbing a try. So he dropped by the local army store and bought nylon rope, carabiners, chalks, pitons, and other climbing necessities. He checked out climbing books and studied how to tie knots, hook up harness, and rappel. His first real climbing experience was rappelling off his friend's chimney. Soon, he began climbing some of the smaller peaks surrounding the Grand Teton. Bryce soon realized that he had a knack for it. Unlike many of his climbing partners, his body was strong and lightweight and seemed to be perfectly built for rock climbing. After training for several months, Bryce finally climbed the Teton all by himself. It took him 2 days. Reaching his goal gave him a massive confidence boost. He'd drive to the Tetons, run up to the base of the climb, do the climb, and run back down. Bryce got faster and stronger every time. Bryce's friend Kim noticed how seriously he took climbing and told him, hey, you ought to go after the record of the Grand Teton. I think it's Teton. I'm going to go with Teton. Kim told Bryce all about it. A climbing ranger named Jock Glidden had set a record on the Grand by running to the top and back in 4 hours and 11 minutes. That's absolutely impossible, thought Bryce. I'd like to meet this guy someday. But as Bryce continued to do these types of runs, his times became faster, and Kim kept saying, you have to go after the record. I know you can do it. On one occasion, Bryce finally met Jock, the superhuman with the insurmountable record. Bryce and Kim were sitting in Jock's tent when Kim, a well-known climber himself, said to Jock, this guy here is thinking about going after your record. Jock gazed at Bryce's 125-pound frame and laughed aloud, as if to say, get a clue, you little runt. Bryce felt devastated, but quickly gathered himself. And Kim kept affirming him, you can do it. I know you can do it. Early one morning, carrying a small orange backpack and a light jacket, Bryce ran to the top of the Grand and back in 3 hours, 47 minutes, and 4 seconds. He stopped only twice, once to take rocks out of his shoes and once to sign the register at the summit to prove he had been there. He felt utterly amazing. He'd not only broken the record, he'd shattered it. A few years later, Bryce received a surprise call from Kim. Bryce, have you heard? Your record has just been broken. Of course, he added. You need to get it back. I know you can do it. The man named Crichton King, who had recently won the heralded Pikes Peak Marathon in Colorado, dashed to the top and back in 3 hours, 30 minutes, and 9 seconds. 2 years after his last assault on the mountain, and 10 days after his record had been broken, Bryce stood in the Lupine Meadows parking lot at the base of the Grand Teton in brand new running shoes, ready and eager to break King's record. With him were friends, family, Kim, and a crew from the local television station to film his run. As before, he knew the hardest part of the climb would be the mental aspect. He obviously did not want to become one of the 2 or 3 who die each year while attempting to scale the Grand. Sports writer Russell Weeks describes running the Grand as follows. From the parking lot, you face a run of about 9 or 10 miles up switchback trails, through a canyon, up 2 glacial moraines, 2 saddles, a gap between 2 peaks, and a 700-foot climb up the west wall of the Grand to the top. The rise and fall in altitude from Lupine Meadows to the top and back is about 15,000 feet. Leigh Ortenberger's Climber's Guide to the Teton Range lists the last 700 feet alone as a 3-hour climb. Bryce took off running. As he ascended up the mountain, his heart pounded and his legs burned. Concentration was intense. Scaling the last 700 feet in 12 minutes, he reached the summit in 1 hour and 53 minutes and placed his verification card under a rock. He knew that if he were to break King's record, he would have to do it coming down. The descent became so steep at times that he was taking 10 to 15-foot strides. He passed some friends who later told him his face had turned purple from oxygen depletion. Another climbing party apparently knew he was going for the record because as he passed, they yelled, "Go! Go!" Amid cheers, Bryce returned to Lupine Meadows with bleeding knees, thrashing tennis shoes, and one horrific headache. 3 hours, 6 minutes, and 25 seconds after he had left, he had done the impossible. Oh, I have chill bumps. Word spread fast, and Bryce became known as the fastest climber in the West. "It gave me an identity," said Bryce. "Everyone wants to be known for something, and so did I. My ability to climb gave me something to work for and was a great source of self-esteem. It was my way of expressing myself." Today, Bryce is founder and president of a very successful company that makes high-performance backpacks for climbers and mountain runners. Most important, Bryce has found a way to make a living doing what he loves. It's what he's good at, and he's used this talent to bless his life and the lives of many others. Oh, and by the way, the record still stands. Now don't get any wild ideas. And Bryce still has that BB in his eye. So, my friends, if you need a shot of confidence, start making some deposits into your personal bank account starting today. You'll feel the results instantly. And remember, you don't have to climb a mountain to make a deposit. There are, I don't know, 1,000,000,001 safer ways. Okay, so now that we're through that, I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to go pick up my next, which is your homework assignment, okay? So let's go back to share screen, and here it is. All right, your homework assignment, my personal bank account. During the course of reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, you're going to keep track of your own actions to help create self-awareness. Record your deposits and your withdrawals. Your goal should be to have a positive balance and to establish some good habits that will stay with you and help you become successful. So if you have a workbook, if you've gotten a workbook from the Boys and Girls Club, then you don't need to copy this page down. And hopefully it'll be posted in the link below the video. But if you don't have a workbook, then you'll need to pause this video right here and you'll need to copy this down, okay? I want you keeping track of your personal bank account. Every single day, every single time you do any of these 6 things, I want you to either write down that you made a deposit or write down that you made a withdrawal, okay? And you're basing the points on how you want to do it. Is it worth 5 points? Is it worth 1 point? Is it worth, 25 points, okay? All right, so this is your homework. Like I said, if you don't have it, pause the screen right now, jot it down. If you have it, then by all means, get started today. I look forward to hearing how you all are doing on your personal bank accounts. And tomorrow, or actually Monday, is going to be just a short day since today was so long. It'll be just a little short day, and we'll be looking at baby steps, things you can do to further increase your ability to raise your deposits in your personal bank account and begin that change every time you look at that man or woman in the mirror. You're going to see change, right? Right. Okay. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll catch you on Monday morning. Toodle-doo.